Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Whiteboard Wednesdays with Werner. We have also our resident expert, Richard, with us, joining us again and giving us some useful insights in an unuseful world. So, Richard, we spoke last week about generative AI and ChatGPT and Midjourney and, just also some of the practical applications that we use. But what's been transpiring is seeing what Microsoft has done with this. So we're still on our little news break from our data protection theme for the season, and we're just looking into this because it's some interesting stuff happening, right? So, I mean, there goes Microsoft announces they, really doubling down on generative AI. They're going to be working this into Bing, which is their search engine, and always, let's be realistic, it's always played second fiddle to Google, right? And their search engine. Thoughts? Because there's been a lot of pro, and then also there's been some interesting developments, and we've seen Microsoft share price hike up and then drop by 20, coming down. So, just your take on this versus Google, right?
So certainly the Microsoft versus Google thing. I think for the first time in sort of recent history, in the recent history of Google versus Bing, I would say that Bing has a very strong position against Google. I don't know the last time someone went and Binged something, but certainly I know people Google things. And I think in large part because Microsoft had already invested in OpenAI many years ago, so they could pivot and bring this on board. And they have because they're on the back foot, I think, obviously this is all speculation.
It's just our take.
This is our take, but because they're on the back foot, they actually need to pivot to create something new to gain market share. Whereas Google has an interesting dilemma on their hands. In the world of Google, in our traditional world, when we Google something, we get a list of results, which we then need to go through and process ourselves and manually aggregate in our own minds. And in that process, we see adverts popped up and thrown in our faces.
So Google's motto was to, organize
the internet
world,
for us.
organize the internet, the world's information, and classify that whole lot.
And classify it and give it to us, after which we need to process it ourselves. We need to go through and do the research and find the results and ranked and all that good stuff.
Reliability and all of that type
Exactly. And in that process, Google's business model is here's an advert, here's an advert, here's an advert, here's an advert, tracking your habits, what you click on, and all of that sort of thing. And that's how they make the lion's share of their Google money. Obviously, that's not talking about Alphabet as a whole. But with ChatGPT, that entire approach falls away. Or at least that type of generative AI rather than just ChatGPT. So if you have a conversation and something goes and fetches all the results for you and brings it back to you, you're not going to another page. You're not seeing that advert. You're getting the results immediately. So that business model is almost, in my mind, the antithesis of what Microsoft's model is. And as a result, I think Google's got an interesting time ahead of them.
Yeah, they've been scrambling. There was a lot of, reports in the media, and we're obviously just taking this at face value. Trying to get a competitive platform out, BART and all that type of stuff. But I think there's still some doubts over the how reliable is it? We've seen Bing come back with some very interesting, responses. So obviously it still needs quite a bit of work, right? I don't think it's business model ready yet.
No, I think and one of the bigger challenges that Bing has versus ChatGPT is ChatGPT has a finite data set. And once that data set was established and churned and processed, ChatGPT, in theory, and obviously I don't know what's happening in the background, but in theory, ChatGPT was unable to go and reach out to the internet and find more information for you. Whereas Bing doesn't. Bing, in theory, has access to everything. Now, that's the good and the bad of the internet. And that can taint it. And I think that's what happens every now and then, and that's why we get some of these weird, interesting results.
So I guess it's about then trying to take what the biases are out there and what is the conscience of the internet. So very interesting stuff. I think we're going to watch what Microsoft and Google do. specifically in this realm. And obviously there's so many. I mean, there's a lot of open source models out there. There's a lot of proprietary models. How are these going to be potentially monetized? Where's the value? Where does the actual use case sit? So some interesting questions that it raises, and something to watch with this whole generative AI space. So
fascinating, yeah.
Perfect. Richard, thank you so much for once again some insights, having a quick general chat around these topics, and thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. So we'll see you guys again in a following episode of Whiteboard Wednesdays with Werner. Please don't forget to like, share, and follow our LinkedIn page.